All of you have extraordinary capabilities. All of you. You have to decide if you are willing to do the things to put you in that category. Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day. That's a third of your life. It ain't but 24 hours in a day. You cannot be sleep 8 hours a day. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful.
What you should do if you want to start waking up early is start waking up early. You figure out what that time is for you, and then you start waking up at that time. Now, if you wake up and it's earlier than you normally wake up, by the end of the day, guess what? You'll be a little bit more tired, and then you can go to bed a little bit earlier. Impose discipline on your life. That's the way it works. Get out of bed, go get some. You got 24 hours in a day. The earlier you get up, the more you can take advantage of those hours. The reason I wake up at 4:30 in the morning is no one else is awake yet. So that gives me the opportunity to do things that I need to get done kind of selfishly for myself. And the big one in that category is working out. And it doesn't feel good at 4:30 when you get up, but by the time 7 o'clock rolls around and you've already worked out and you've already got some work done and you've got some time to say goodbye to your kids before they go to school, it's infinitely better than sleeping in until 6:45 and you get out of bed and now you missed your kids going to school or whatever. You're not prepared for the day. It's awful.
Whatever amount of sleep you need, you know how much you need. So you go to bed early enough so that you come awake naturally.
Wake up at the same time every day. And if you pick that time and you start waking up at the same time every day, that's very good for you. It doesn't have to be 4:30, it could be 6:30, it could be 7. I don't know what your personal schedule is, but find out a time, pick it, set it, stick to it, and maintain that schedule, and that's going to end up better for you. I recommend it's earlier. I recommend that you go to bed earlier, because what are you doing at night most of the time? Most of the time at night, you're not working on anything super productive. You're just winding down and watching stupid YouTube videos or surfing the internet, reading clickbait stories, right? Don't do that. Instead, go to sleep and then wake up early.
No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. The bottom line is, no one's coming. When you become 18, when you move out of the house, when you're an adult, you have to parent yourself. Unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you've got to push yourself, you're not going to make your dreams come true.
Take yourself out your comfort zone. Do not live in your bubble. Put some more air in your bubble. If you stay in your comfort zone, that's where you will fail. You will fail in your comfort zone. Success is not a comfortable procedure. It is a very uncomfortable thing to attempt. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful.
If you don't have any discipline, you'll end up with absolutely no freedom. You'll end up being a slave to other people that boss you around. There's all kinds of problems that can occur if you don't have discipline in your life. And the more discipline you have, the more freedom you're going to have.
The Bible says, he who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night. He who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night.
Make a plan. Look at what you're interested in. Get disciplined about something. Allow for the possibility that you have something important to contribute to the world, and that the world would be a lesser place without that contribution. Don't be afraid of taking on responsibility. It's where you find what sustains you in your life. You can take on too much responsibility. You have to be cautious in that regard, but that's a less common problem than not taking on enough.
Now, when it does come to planning, I think the most important part of a plan, the thing that makes a plan the most effective, is its flexibility. When you do the actual operation and you come up against unexpected things, which are absolutely going to happen, you have the flexibility, you have options, you have contingency plans to deal with.
You got to have a plan. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody's got a goal. What's the plan? And your plan has got to have something I call the C5 complex. Your plan has got to be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You've got to have a plan. And when you're trying to do something that you're truly passionate about, there is no plan B.
A lot of the things that people regard as traps are actually the means to their life. You know, often young people are afraid of commitment, for example, in the context of a romantic relationship. And because they feel that that's going to interfere with their pursuit of something more valuable. But that's just not the case. You're not going to find something more valuable in your life than a committed relationship with someone that you love, that sustains itself across time, and that in all likelihood produces children. That's life. So don't be afraid of that, or be afraid of it, but don't let that stop you from pursuing it.
When you see transition really start to happen, when you really want to transition to something, master it. There's no limits. You know, don't let the world ever put limits on you. You can do anything you want to do, but make sure if you have a vision, make sure the vision is written. You know, make sure you have something to actually chase and not just hoping and wishing and all these different things. So put your plan together and then work the plan. Don't work somebody else's plan, right? That's one thing about the league. I love the league, but the league is somebody else's brand, right? You have to create your own brand yourself.
Come up with a good plan. Don't come up with a perfect plan that takes you 2 weeks to come up with. That's not going to help. That said, a good plan, violently executed now, is better than a perfect plan executed next week. Pay attention. Watch how it's unfolding. Don't put the blinders on, and you've got your plan. Now we're going to go, and we're not going to look around anymore. We're just going to follow the plan. No. You have to be observant. You have to observe when you decide to act the whole time. You can't just come up with a plan and stay on that track, because when you come up with a fast plan, you're not going to have thought about every single detail.
Your future is in your hands. You know what that means? You got to work on your mind. Fortify yourself. You know what that means? You got to upgrade, level up your skill set. You know what that means? That means you want to be in a community of collaborative, achievement-driven, supported relationships that's going in your direction. You're supposed to evolve, not be the same way. We've been trained to be who we were not to be. And as a result, most of us are living a misplaced life. A lot of people have made the decision to give up. A lot of people have made the decision to wait for a stimulus check. They don't require much stipulation. A lot of people have made the decision that I can't make it. A lot of people have made the decision that this is too painful, this is too much. No. A lot of people have thrown in the towel. It's a new day. And it's a new day, it's got to be a new you. You got to be willing to transform yourself.
So, be flexible, but stick to the plan, but be ready to adjust, but stick to the plan. And that's totally contradictory, and I know that, and I apologize, but that is what leadership is. Leadership is balancing those dichotomies.
I've told people to learn to use a schedule. And people often hate schedules because they act as their own tyrants, right? They say, well, you have to do this unpleasant thing, and then here's another unpleasant thing you have to do. And you do that for about 3 days, and you think, to hell with this, I'm not doing that, and you fall off the wagon. That isn't what you're supposed to do with a schedule. You're supposed to use it to design the days that you would like to have if you were taking care of yourself. And so you got to treat yourself like a good boss would treat a valued employee, and not like a tyrant would treat a slave, because the slave will rebel. And people say, well, I don't follow through on my plans. It's like, well, they're probably not very well formulated, and maybe you're doing it because of an external moral obligation, something not really your plans, right? And B, you're acting like a tyrant and a slave, and that's a bad relationship to have with yourself.
You've accepted that where you are is where you're going to be. You've already lost. And there's no power in that. There's no power in that. That's like staying right here. You're not popping the clutch. You're not going forward. You made a choice to just stay here. And that's your responsibility. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying there are challenges, problems, obstacles, issues, fears. But when you quit right here, you're right. This is where you're going to be.
Growth is not an automatic process. If you're going to grow, you're going to have to do so intentionally. And highly successful people
They continually have a thirst for knowledge. They continually ask questions. The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. The secret of my success is determined by what I do today. I believe that so much that a few years ago I wrote a book called Today Matters. Basically, in that book, I talk about the fact that we over-exaggerate yesterday, we overestimate tomorrow, and we underestimate today.
If you do not have it written down, your chances of it happening is reduced drastically because it's a principle of success. Write the vision and make it plain so that he who reads it will run to it. And even though it tarry, wait for it, for surely it will come at an appointed time. See, my first vision board I wrote when I was 10. I didn't know it was a vision board. The lady asked me what I want to be when I grow up. I wrote I want to be on TV. I wrote it at 10. I kept that paper till I was 27. I read it. I flunked out of school. I'm on my third marriage. I lost everything twice. I've been living in a car for 3 years. But I kept reading my paper. Guess what? I'm TV star. I'm on TV. This is how this works. Now, I wrote it at 10. But surely it will come at an appointed time. I did not get on TV till I was 38.
We got to be more determined and stronger and be willing to do whatever it takes to live our dreams and create a future for our children. You got to be stronger than the forces working against you. Can't take any breaks. No, absolutely not. This is a new way of being. This is different. And the secret is to maintain commitment through all the frustrations, through all the disappointments, through all the setbacks that we will experience, and working to bring about change. That's how change comes about. People, you're not a witness. You're a participant. You want to be actively engaged in life. Harv's man was right. We should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind with our voice, with our story, with our energy, with our efforts, with our intelligence, with our abilities, with our dreams.
Write everything you want on a piece of paper. Everything. I don't care. Use your wildest imagination. If you can think it, you can achieve it. Write it on a piece of paper. Read it every morning and every night. Come back here 1 year from today and see how much of that stuff then came true. That's all successful people have. If it's not written, you reduce your chances greatly of it ever occurring.
The role of leadership is one called high intensity on personal development, on language, on vocabulary, on skills, on compassion, on strength, power, vigor. However, here's the refinement of leadership. Make this list. This is a good one. Leaders must be strong but not rude. Some people mistake rudeness for strength. We don't need rudeness, but we do need strength. Next, be kind but not weak. Some people mistake weakness for kindness. Nothing could be further from the truth. We don't need weakness, but we do need kindness. Kindness is not offering to carry somebody the rest of their life, but to show him how to develop the leg muscle so they can walk the rest of their life and stay with them till they learn it. That's kindness. Next, we must be thoughtful but not lazy. It is important to dream, as we found out earlier, but you don't want to be just a dreamer. You must use dreams as the incentive to become the person, to develop the skills, to pull them off someday. Check it off your list. Walk the high road. Next, leaders must learn to be bold, but not a bully. Bold enough to seize the day, bold enough to seize the moment, seize the occasion, seize the opportunity. But we don't need anybody to throw their weight around. Serves no useful purpose. We don't need to bully people into compliance. Congress doesn't need to be a bully. It needs to be thoughtful, constructive, generous, but practical. Next, learn to be humble but not timid. Some people mistake timidity for humility. But here's the truth. Timidity is a disease. It's a malady. It can be cured, or it can be driven into such a small corner it doesn't dominate your life anymore, but you do have to work at it. One of the richest friends I got, I'm telling you, he was timid and shy. Now he's driven it into such a small corner, he's a mega millionaire. Humility we all need, because humility is a virtue. Timidity is a malady, but humility is the virtue. Next, be proud but not arrogant. This is the course in leadership everybody needs. Yes, school pride. Yes, community pride. Yes, family pride. Yes, team pride. Yes, personal pride, but not arrogance. Do you know the worst kind of arrogance? Arrogance from ignorance. That's the worst kind. If a guy's smart and arrogant, you can handle that. But if a guy's dumb and arrogant, I mean, that's too much. But we don't need arrogance. No matter how accomplished you become, resist the temptation to be arrogant. Resist the temptation to be lofty. Real life is among the people. Real life is in human experiences. Walk off into your ivory tower, you'll resent the rest of your life no matter how rich and mega accomplished you become. Resist all temptation to be arrogant. Here's the last one. Humor without folly. It's okay to be witty, but not silly. And only sophisticated people know the difference. Difference. Difference.
You must know what you're going after. You must know what you are going after. You can't live your life meandering around hoping you hit something, and whatever you hit, you say, that's what I was aiming at. You have to have a specific target in mind. Most people don't succeed at getting what they're going after because they don't take the time to research what they're going after. They ask for things and then see if they want them. But you have to be careful about that, because if you ask for something, you might get it. And before you start blabbing what all you want to see God do, you need to be sure that that's what you want to see happen in your life. Know what you're going after. Now you say amen to that, but there's very few people who live by that principle. Most people want everything they see somebody else with. They buy clothes that don't look good on them. They wear hairstyles that don't look good on them. They buy houses they can't afford because they're trying to keep up with somebody else. But if you really want to be a winner, if you really want to come off as successful, if you really want to be bright, only go after things that are meant for you to have. It will make you look successful. And what makes you look bright is when you pick your battles. There are some things that you don't fight because that's not your fight. You don't get into that thing. You don't pick those battles. You don't covet what you see somebody else fight down because they're anointed to fight that. They can do that. You might not be gifted to fight that area, and you don't want to covet somebody else's battle or covet somebody else's success. Covet, and the other word I want you to think about is the word envy, because envy is the attitude that you have about other people's success. When you become envious of other people's success, you fail to become everything that God would have you to be. And the quickest way to stop being envious of other people's success is to know that God has something for you, that everything in your life is preparing you for that thing, that there are in your life defining moments. This is a critical issue. There are in your life defining moments, moments that if you handle properly, they are pivotal points that change your life for a lifetime. It is at these moments that if you know what you're going after, everything that you went through before is justified in preparing you for these defining moments. When you come to the defining moments in your life, you can look at the other moments in your life and say, Lord, I wasn't happy about that when it happened, but I'm glad now that it happened. Because I realized that if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be ready for this. Everything you took me through before was preparing me for this moment, and now I'm ready to go after what God has promised me and receive it at all costs. Know what you're going after. Be clear about your direction. Don't wake up in the morning and see if something's going to happen. Wake up in the morning to make something happen. Get up out of the bed with an agenda. But people who get up like that, nothing does happen, and the days turn to weeks, and the weeks turn to months, and the months turn to years. Years of mediocrity is what causes people to be bitter. If you want to get around bitter and complaining people, get around people who are not seeing much activity. They're bitter, they're complaining, they're cynical, and they're jealous because nothing is happening. If you want to get around less gossip and less jealousy, get around successful, busy people. Because busy people don't have time to care what's going on in your life. I have no need to investigate what's going on in your life. I have so much going on in my own life that I'm not interested in what I heard that they said that you thought, that if I thought what you said that I didn't mean if you heard it. The only people who have time for that is people who are not doing anything. And they watch your life like it's a soap opera because they're living their life vicariously through you. What's going on in your life intrigues them because nothing is going on in their life. And if you want to stop that from happening to you, wake up in the bed and know what you're going after. Get up out of the bed with an agenda. When you have an agenda, you don't spend time worrying about how you feel because it doesn't make any difference how you feel. You woke up with something to do.
Setting goals. It can turn out to be a drama for your life. Here's what goals are. Your vision of the future. Your vision of the future. Now, there's two ways to face the future. One, with apprehension. Number two, with anticipation. Guess how most people face the future? With apprehension. Why? Major reason why. They don't have it well designed. They've left the design of their future to somebody else. And if you don't make plans of your own, guess what? You'll probably fall into someone else's plans. Guess what someone else may have planned for you? Not much. You got to make a list of this not much stuff. I'm telling you, people all their lives count on this not much list. If all of your negative relatives all turn positive, what'll that do for your future? Not much. If prices come down a little, what'll that do for your future? Not much. If the economy gets a little better, what'll that do for your future? Not much. If circumstances get a little better, what'll that do? Not much. If the weather gets a little better over the next few years, that'll do. Not much. I mean, you could go right down this whole scenario list. Most people all their lives, with their fingers crossed, count on this not much list. That's why 10 years from now, they'll be driving what they don't want to drive, living where they don't want to live, wearing what they don't want to wear, doing what they don't want to do, having what they don't want to have, maybe become what they didn't want to become. And it all starts by counting on something that's not going to count much. You say, well, then how can my life dramatically change? You got to count on yourself. And here's one of the things you got to count on. Your ability to design the future. It's called the promise. And the promise of the future, if you'll design it well, can have an awesome effect on your life. But if you face the future with apprehension, you'll take hesitant steps all day, uncertain steps all day. And if you take uncertain steps all day for 6 years, you can imagine how empty your life is. We got to help our kids with the promise of the future. Now here's what's connected to the promise, the price. The price to pay. But I'm telling you, the price is easy if the promise is clear. One of the better notes to make for today. The price is easy if the promise is clear and powerful. But the price seems almost too much to pay. Too much to get over. Too much to accomplish if the promise isn't clear. If the promise isn't powerful. I'm telling you, kids will pay the discipline if they can see the promise. One of our biggest challenges as parents in the 90s is to help our kids see the promise of the future. That's why I'm teaching financial independence, how to become wealthy and powerful and sophisticated and healthy and unique. All of the stuff kids would hope to go for. It's all possible. This is America. That's the promise of the future. The price? A few simple disciplines practiced every day. And I'm telling you, the kids will pay the price of the simple disciplines if they can see the promise of the future. But if they can't see, they don't want to pay. And the same is true of all of us. We will pay the most extraordinary disciplines if we can see the promise of the future, called setting goals. So I'm asking you to get a handle on the future. I'm asking you not to leave it to anyone else. Don't leave it to the company. Companies got their own goals. I'm asking you to set your own goals, your personal goals. Income goals and financial goals and health goals and spiritual goals. Where do you want to go and what do you want to do and what do you want to see and what do you want to be? That's it. Promise of the future. Design your own future. It's within your hands, your capacity to do so. Here's how simple now goal setting is. It's not mysterious. You don't have to anchor, you don't have to focus, you don't have to visualize. None of that stuff. Here's how simple goal setting is. Changed my life. Decide what you want and write it down. I mean, that's how profound this stuff is. Decide what you want and write it down. Make a list. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? What do you want to share? What projects would you like to support? What would you like to be known for? What skills would you like to learn? Some extraordinary things you'd like to do, ordinary things you'd like to do, right? Silly little things you'd like to do, very important things you'd like to do. Decide on all that stuff and write it down, write it down, write it down. That's how simple this stuff is. And it's your own private list. If it's really private, on your list, put some stuff in code where nobody can understand it if this list fell into unfriendly hands. And simple things, whatever. Foolish things, doesn't matter. It's your list. I had a little revenge on my first list. Budget finance, who used to harass me. I got 2 or 3 payments behind. This one guy called incessant. Said, we're going to come get your car, drag it rear end up down the street in front of your neighbors. Put me down something fierce. When I met Shope, got my life straightened out, one of the first things on one of my lists was budget finance. And when I finally got the money, I needed a little drama in my life. Finally got the money to pay them all. I put it in small bills in a big brief. Walked into the budget finance office on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. The guy who harassed me so often, his desk was about 3 back. I opened the door, walked in, right up to his desk, stood right in front of him, never said a word. He said, well, what are you doing here? Didn't say a word. I opened up this briefcase, dumped this pile of money all over it. Yes. I said, count it. It's all there. I'll never be back. Turned around, walked out, slammed the door. Now that might not be noble, but you got to try it at least one time. Pay off the little drama. Got to check them off my list.
The God at the start of Genesis that is creating the world is actually an amalgamation to deceive and misdirect of the gods, the reptilian gods. And what's being described is not the creation of the world, but the creation of the simulation, the matrix. And so when we hear lines like, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, I say what's being described is electromagnetic light, which is basically what this simulation is. And I said just after the turn of the millennium that this is a simulation, and the walls of it, certainly at our level anyway, are the speed of light, which is not the fastest speed possible. That's a joke. We're dealing with all possibility here. That's the fastest speed possible. It's a joke. It's the speed of the matrix of the simulation. And there was an article in Scientific American in April of this year where some academic said, we live in a simulation and the walls of the simulation are the speed of light. And he was relating the speed of light in simulation terms to the processing speed. Because what is physics? What is the law of physics, as we call it? It's whatever the creator of the simulation decided it was going to be. What are, in effect, the laws of physics of computer games? They're whatever the creator of the game decides they're going to be. But as this article pointed out, you can create the laws within your game, but you're still going to be limited by the processing speed you're dealing with. And that's why the speed of light is this faster speed. That's why when people have near-death experiences, they leave the body, which is locking us into the simulation through the five senses, and they experience a totally different version of physics, where past, present, and future all kind of happen at once in the same now. But within the simulation, we have time, we have all these other illusions, which are the creation of the simulation. So you had this treasure trove of documents that were found at Nagamadi in 1945, about 75 miles north of Luxor in Egypt, which was an earthen jar of the writings of the Gnostic people. And it's reckoned that they were put in that jar 400 AD, something like that. And about a fifth of these writings were about what they called archons, which is Greek for rulers, who were manipulating human society. And what they say in these writings is that this world is a fake world. It's a fake reality created by this archontic force to enslave humanity in an illusion. I went through all of them, and what you see, they're describing a virtual reality universe. That's what they're describing in their own language, what we would call today virtual reality. One of the great things today is that because of the technological advancement, so-called, we've now got the analogies and the experience of virtual reality to actually describe what this reality is.
You are power.
Called enemies within yourself. Here's the first one: indifference. Whatever you do, practice not being casual. You've got to shake off sometimes the lethargy that would say, oh, well, maybe it's not going to work for me, or I'll just go along and see what happens. I'm asking you, whatever you do, the intensity that you've gathered up here during this extravaganza, I want you to take this same intensity home with you. Don't be casual. Casualness creates casualties, whether it's in Herbalife or whether it's on the freeway. Go home with a renewed intensity. Don't let indifference take over. Here's the next one: indecision. Someone's mentioned it a couple of times on this stage. They've had to deal with it. You've got to deal with it. Indecision is called the thief of opportunity. Make decisions even if it's a wrong decision. Do the very best you can, make a decision and go with it. If it doesn't work out because it was a wrong decision, I'm telling you, that gives you experience now to make a better decision. Here's the next one: doubt. We've all got to deal with the enemy of doubt. Cynicism has a unique way of crowding in on all of us. Being cynical about the government, being cynical about banks and money, being cynical about society, being cynical about the past, cynical about the future. I'm asking you, don't let that disease grab you by the throat and ruin your chances to do well in Herbalife. Yes, it's easy to doubt that it can happen. It's easy to doubt. We've all got fears that want to crowd in. And here's one of the worst ones of all, and that is to doubt yourself. I know we look at Mark, glamorous, handsome, good-looking, extremely successful, say, my gosh, I don't think that could happen for me. But I want you to know that Mark says, and I say to you, that if it can happen to us, it can happen to anybody in this room. Don't doubt your own ability. Don't doubt your own strength. If Mark can make it through some tough times, you can make it through. If Mark went through some strenuous times, you can go through those strenuous times. When the nights were long for Mark, I'm telling you, he made it. If he made it, you can make it. If I can make it, you can make it. If these people in the President's team can carve out an extraordinary story, second to none, in the business community of the world, I'm telling you, from these tables, this success can go right on back to the Millionaire team and the Get team and to everybody up there, wherever you're sitting today. All of this belongs to all of you. Don't doubt that, not for a minute.
Isn't it fantastic that if there's no purpose, you have nothing to fulfill, you can just live? No, but you want a purpose. And not a simple purpose, you want a God-given purpose. It's very dangerous. People who think they have a God-given purpose are doing the cruelest things on the planet. Yes or no? They are doing the most horrible things, and they've always been doing the most horrible things. Because when you have a God-given purpose, life here becomes less important than your purpose. No, life is important. Life is important. When I say life, I am not talking about your family, your work, what you do not do, your party. I'm not talking about that as life. This is life, isn't it? Life is within you or around you. The ambience of life, you're mistaking the ambience of life for life. Your home, your family, your workspace, your party, this is all ambience of life. This is not life, isn't it? Yes or no? You're mistaking the ambience for the real thing. No. Life is important because it's the only thing you know. You don't know anything else. Do you know something else? Rest is all imagined stuff, isn't it? The only thing is that this is beating and alive and that's all there is. So is this important? It is of paramount importance. Not you as a person, that's not important. But you as a piece of life, it's very important, because that is the basis of everything. When I say that is the basis of everything, the universe exists for you only because you are, isn't it? Yes or no? The world exists for you only because you are, otherwise it wouldn't exist in your experience. So, in every way, this is important. So what is the purpose for this? See, if you had a purpose and if you fulfilled it, after that what would you do? After that what would you do? Bored, isn't it? It is just that life is so intricate and so phenomenally intricate that if you spend 10,000 years looking at it carefully, you still will not know it entirely. If you spend 1,000,000 years looking at it with absolute focus, still you will not know it in its entirety. That's how it is. Is there a meaning to it? The greatest thing about life is that there is no meaning to it. This is the greatest aspect of life, that it has no meaning to it and there is no need for it to have a meaning. It is the pettiness of one's mind that it is seek a meaning, because psychologically you will feel kind of unconnected with life if you don't have a purpose and a meaning. People are constantly trying to create these false purposes. Now, they were quite fine and happy, suddenly they got married, now the purpose is the other person. Then they have children, now they become miserable with each other, now the whole purpose that I go through all this misery is because of the children. Like this it goes on.
I love you. I repeat, I love you. If no one has ever told you this, if no one told you this today, this week, this month, this year, or this very second, I want you to know I love you. And I also want you to know that the fact that you're still alive and still on this earth, even though it's been challenging and rough, and sometimes you get discouraged and uninspired to keep going, God has a plan. You will grow through what you go through. Everything that you're going through, at some point, it makes no sense to you right now, but at some point, God is going to reveal to you why all of these issues, challenges, and problems continue to show up and what you were supposed to learn from it.
What do you do when the clock is against you and you have enough wisdom to do it over, but you don't have enough time to do it over? What do you do when you miss your season and you miss your window of opportunity? What do you do when you know that you've got the desire to do it, you've got the passion to do it, but you look in the mirror and the wrinkles in your face and the sagging of your body indicates you don't have time to do this all over again. She says, I don't have time to get pregnant again. I don't have a second chance at life. My life is over. Go away. Don't hang around me. I have nothing left to give. There are people that when you start running out of time, you get bitter, you get desperate, you start pushing people away from you because they're asking something of you that you don't think you can give anymore. And you find yourself in a place of depletion and it feels like God has forgotten you. But I remind you, nothing just happens. At this age, at this stage, there's a reason why it happened at this age. There's a reason why it happened at this level in life. It's not a mistake. It's not an accident. God didn't fall asleep on the job and the devil came in and wrecked the car. No, God never sleeps and he never slumbers. He's in complete control and he knows where you are and he knows how old you are and he knows how much time you spent and he knows what happened to you and he knows who walked out and left you and he knows who betrayed you, and he knows who molested you, and he knows who raped you, and he knows who rejected you, and he knows where you are in life, and he knows about your bills, and he knows about your degree, and he knows you dropped out of school, and he knows about what you didn't get, and he knows about the health of your child, and he knows about the condition of your neighborhood. Understand that and tell yourself nothing just happens. If they walked away, it's no accident. If they left you, it's no accident. If you tried to make it work and it wouldn't work, it's no accident. Accept it as the will of God. Clap your hands, wash your face, do your dance, and keep going.
God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Hear me well on this day. When you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education, you would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you.
I wonder if you're upset about something now that later on you're going to realize it had to happen to get you to your destiny. It wasn't fair, but God used it to connect the dots. You can't see what God is up to, but later on you're going to understand. A disappointment today, a betrayal, you may not see how that works out for your good until years down the road. What's interesting is every time we got close to the end, all of a sudden that piece that I was so sure was a mistake would fit perfectly into place. You may have some pieces in your life that don't make sense. Why did that person walk out of a relationship? By itself, that piece doesn't fit. You have to wait for the other pieces to come together. God is in the process of connecting the dots in your life. Trust Him when the piece doesn't make sense. When God designed the plan for your life, He didn't accidentally put in a wrong piece. He didn't leave something out. You have been fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything is serving His plan. He never said, you're going to understand everything. It's all going to make sense. He said, my ways are not your ways. You have to trust Him when you don't understand. God is working behind the scenes in your life right now. Just because you don't see anything happening doesn't mean God is not working. It's just a matter of time before your appointing shows up. Too often we have the anointing, but we get discouraged by the process. We don't like when we're not making progress, not being treated right. When you're tempted to give up, you have to remind yourself it's all a part of the process. Don't run away from the process. The process is not working against you, it's working for you. It's getting you prepared. Don't let disappointments talk you out of it. Don't let delays convince you it's not going to happen. You've come too far to stop now. Keep your joy in tough times. When life throws you a curve, it's taking longer than you thought, remind yourself it's only temporary. Don't fall into self-pity. Keep looking forward. The joy is coming. The dream is coming. The breakthrough is on the way. Don't get discouraged thinking that you're falling behind. I should be much further ahead. My friends, my colleagues, they've all passed me up. Don't worry, your time is coming. God knows how to make up for lost time.
Everything that's happening to you is God is processing. Every difficult moment you're having, He just processing you. That's all He's doing. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you ask God for. And if you need to be tough when you get to where you're going, then He gonna toughen you. If you got to be more caring along the way, He gonna let you have some trials come your way that's gonna have to produce that in you. What happened in my life was getting where I've gotten to today and where I'm even headed to, I had to be tough. So He toughened me along the way. I had to learn how to appreciate a lot, so He took everything. To really understand the value of money, I had none. To just appreciate simple things, what I'm gonna eat today, where I'm gonna wash up at, where I'm gonna bathe. He sent me through a trial of being homeless for 3 years. I lived in a car for 3 years. All of that I was going through, that I was tripping with, that I did not appreciate or understand, I understand it now, because I'm on the other side of them troubles. And I understand what all them troubles was for. And even though I did not understand or appreciate the route He took me on, it was the route I had to go on. See, the route you on right now is the route you got to take. And it's very uniquely yours. This thing you going through, this just uniquely yours. You just got to understand you ain't the only one. You ain't the only one going through it. Now, in the order that it's going to happen, it's just yours.